So Tom, of course, is a local customer who I've worked on his guitars. I don't know how many guitars I've done for him. The last 25 years. Local guy, good friend, and obviously a big guitar enthusiast. For the last few guys that ordered the XLT unit, this is one job that I kind of do almost exclusively on the XLT as opposed to the GPS. Let me explain. There's a ton of different jobs where you need to kind of flip the guitar around on its edge, on its back, etc. When I change the machine heads, the way I orient the guitar is I flip it face down like so. This is for all you guys with your XLTs. I jack that up like so, and then I cinch the neck down on the pivoting V block. I can even bring that a little lower. It orients the guitar so that the machine heads are right in the center of my chest. The other thing that I use this orientation for often is when I need to get at the cavity on a Les Paul, or in this case a PRS, or the switch. I basically have the thing right up to chest level. It's dead level. I take out the screws, pop off the plates, do whatever soldering I've got to do, and then just flip it over and then get on with the rest of the job. One word of caution for you guys that are kind of new to this type of thing. The threads on these machine heads are so easy to strip. Don't over tighten them. A 3-year-old could strip them. Just snug them down until that washer doesn't jiggle, and that's it. You can always snug them down a quarter of a turn later, but I've just had so many guitars over the years come into the shop where someone has reefed these things, and like I said, it doesn't take much to strip. If you look, and just get this out for a second, if you look at those threads, I mean, they're like a human hair, so you can't put too much torque on them. Just keep that in mind. I just loosen the strap. I don't take it all the way off. Give this a twirl, like so, and then jack it up. Now I want to move that a little closer to kind of chest level. And now we'll get these screws out the back. Solo Guitars is a Canadian distributor that has a fantastic selection of bodies and necks, and for you guys that are doing your kits. They're the main player here in Canada. Great selection, great prices, and from what I've heard, pretty good service too. Okay, so here's our set of ratio tuners. There's a little mark on each one that kind of tells you where it's going, but I'm going to set those aside for just a second. They supply you with what they refer to as InvisoMatch plates. Now, whether they have a plate that's going to line up with this particular headstock or not, I'm not too sure. We'll find out in a second. These plates are pretty close. Start with the 4th string head and just kind of put that into place and see how close we get. Oh, that lines up pretty good, actually. Yeah, that's going to work. So these are the plates that we're going to use. So the idea behind these plates is that you don't have to do any drilling. They've got one for Grover, one for Shaler. This casting itself has 2 little nibs that index into those holes. And you still have those threaded cuffs to kind of bolt it down into place. Some of them line up, some of them don't. So the InvisoMatch plates, in this case, are not a perfect InvisoMatch. See here, some of them work. Like these 2 are perfect. These ones are perfect. The sort of swoop on this end of the headstock does kind of throw a little bit of a wrench into it. But that's okay. We'll be able to fill those little holes. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and just kind of spin these on. I'll leave them in a little box there. See, I don't want those little screws to go bouncing off into infinity. They're actually pretty generous with these plates. They can give you pretty well cover most case scenarios. In this case, there's going to be a couple of holes that'll need to be filled. I always want to check these washers because sometimes there's a little bit of a profile that distinguishes one side from the other. These ones look pretty well the same. I think one side is a little shinier, so I put that side up. And then we'll just line those loosely into place. So now we'll take those original heads and tuck those away for the originality police. Looks like we'll be okay with this one, and this one looks good too. So we got 3 that work, 3 that don't. Well, we're going to deal with it. So what I've got here is a block of wax. You can get this from Lee Valley here in Canada. In Montreal, Richelieu sell a Mohawk product too, the same idea. So this is a low heat burning stick. So I got a hot knife. I just kind of touch that. I've already filled these, but I'm just doing it for your sake so you can kind of see. And you just basically, it's a wax, right? So it's not a perfect match, but it's, you know, it's better than having a gaping hole in there. Okay. Bringing you around for this angle so you can see I've got these little scoop up tongue depressors, 2 cents a piece. I'm very big on the vernacular, using stuff that's just lying around. So these are tongue depressors cut and sharpened to like a knife edge. And the idea is I can kind of scoop right across, doesn't scratch anything, and I can just scoop that flush. That's it. It's not a perfect match. Definitely better than having a gaping hole. So now we can line those up where they're going to go, and then we can pre-drill for those screws. That looks about right there. Good. A little pilot hole here. And here. So the idea for these screws is not to actually hold anything down, it's to stop the whole machine head from pivoting under the string load. They really serve just as an indexing pin as opposed to a fastener to hold anything down tight. These ones are no different than the other ones. Just snug them down until that washer stops jiggling, and then just give it an extra 1/8 of a turn. Wait till you see the tuner react to these machine heads. The only thing I've done to this guitar, I took the truss rod cover off. I did tighten the truss rod a little bit because there was a bit too much of a bow in the neck. So we're going to start here. Here's our open E 6-string. And octave. That's pretty darn close. Okay, so let's check the B. Haven't touched anything here. There's a B. A little tiny bit flat, and the octave B is about 8 cents sharp. So let's go back to the open E string again. I'll even tweak that a little bit. Get it perfect. Okay. Good. And then our F note. I'm not death gripping it. This is just normal string tension. Okay, so that's about 8 cents sharp. So here's our A. Wow. And our octave. Okay, well that's flat too. Not a big deal. We'll just move that forward. Let's try that again. Octave. Oh, I can live with that. Okay, the 7th fret of the A string. That's about 3 cents flat, and the octave. It's about 2 cents sharp. Okay, let's go back to the open string. And 1st fret. A couple of cents sharp. Let's go to the D. Okay, that looks pretty decent. And then octave. And it's about 5 cents flat. Let's move that saddle forward. Try this again. D. And octave. Oh, I live with that. So 7th fret. Yeah, it's about 3 cents flat. Octave. About 3 cents sharp. Okay, there's our open D and then the 1st fret. And that is perfect. Okay, here's the open G. And octave. 7th fret. Yeah, about 3 cents flat. Same thing, 3 cents flat. That tuned right up. Okay, so there's our open G, perfectly in tune, and the 1st fret. Okay, it's 1 or 2 cents sharp. This is much closer than your typical Gibson or Fender. This is one really good reason why Paul Reed Smith kind of took the market by storm when he did. Okay, so there's our open 2nd string. And a little tiny bit up again. Good. And octave. Perfectly in tune. Okay, 7th fret. And just a hint flat. An octave. About 4 cents flat. Okay, open string. Make sure I tune that right. There we go. Tune that right up. And 1st fret. Okay, that's about 3 cents sharp. Very close. Not perfect, but very close. So there's our open 1st string. And the 12th fret note. Okay, saddle is a little bit flat, so we're going to move that forward. Try that again. And 12th fret. And just a tiny, tiny bit flat. 7th fret note. And octave. And just a hint sharp. Open string. And 1st fret. Okay, it's about 4 cents sharp, that F note. You just witnessed the before shots, okay? And they were pretty darn close. This guitar is pretty close. Before we go too much further, we're going to check the neck and see if there's any high spots that need to be addressed. So far, so good. So according to this length, it's fine. Let's go down to a smaller length and see what happens. So we'll go up to the top. Oh, there's a high spot there. Definitely high spot all the way across. We'll just make our way up here. I'm going to turn the volume down here. Yeah. Not there, just in the center. You know something, I'm going to get my chalk out and mark it. So start here. Okay, so high spot right here. Yep. So it's really middle 2 strings. That's where our high spot is. And the bass. There's a hint of it here too. So D, G, and B strings. So I'll move up a little further. This is good, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. You know, the neck is actually very good. A little bit of a high spot here. Yeah, that seems to go all the way across this fret. Not much, just a couple of thou, right? Okay, good, good. Here, no, good, good. That's good. This neck is really good. It's very close. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna slightly longer straight edge now that we're down this end of the neck. That's good. I'm impressed. Very good. So just a couple of spots, almost nothing, but enough to pay attention to. So what I really want you to watch here is this distance. We're going to bring that in a little bit closer, and we do that by bringing the bridge post down. So here's what I want you to look at now. So if I go up to the highest note on the guitar and I look at the distance here and here, those pickups, The pickup height is okay, but the fact that these pickups are actually kind of almost sinking in. I noticed this on the last couple of R9s and R8 guitars I did, where the pickup ring, and I guess this is vintage to spec, right, was actually too tall, and the pickup was actually sunken in the ring. And in some cases, the string, when you drop the action down, the string was actually rattling against the pickup ring. I may end up actually skimming that bottom edge of the ring down. This one's fine. You see the protrusion above the ring? That's good. So I'd like to kind of see something similar here. So I am going to bring that down a little bit. I wanted to show you that before I do it. So we're finally on the home stretch with this PRS compensated nut. I wanted to show you this stage before I bring it to the last two stages. PRS guitars are generally very good for tuning, and this is, I think, one of the reasons they were so popular. Even though they're ultra close, I'm tweaking them just that little extra bit. Now, I do want to mention something about the bridge saddles. I'm bringing you in super close here because there's something I want to show you about these bridge saddles. Incidentally, the bridge, like most PRS engineering, is ingenious. They have those relief cuts in the wraparound, beautiful brass saddles, really nice machining. This is the one thing about the machining in this that you really got to watch for, but look at how much play. When I push on that, you see how that moves? And that's enough play in the machining to have you going around in circles for days. Now when you tighten the fastener, well, that's no issue. That just pulls the head in tight against the bridge casting. But when you loosen off, you saw that play, that's enough to drive you crazy when you're trying to be this accurate with the compensated nut and bridge. Okay, let's bring this to the next stage. You can really see how minute the adjustment is. 11 to 49 strings at concert pitch. I'll take a close look at this because now we are on to the final step. So we've taken care of all of those high spots. There's no more clicking or ticking now. And I'll bring you in a little closer and show you we're going to recrown these high spots that we nicked off with the leveling file. The other thing I wanted to point out, you see these two pieces of high density foam. You'll find those in the cavity. They're there so that you can pull them up and stick them in like so, and they serve as a positive stop for the body. Now, when I'm working the frets and actually doing the fret dress, there's a little bit more resistance, so I will use the straps. So I just kind of tuck those down out of the way. But when you're changing strings, doing sort of basic stuff, that just acts as a positive stop. So in this case, now that we're ready to buff and polish, so we will use the straps as our positive stop to stop the thing from shifting or wiggling or wobbling or moving around while we're working on it. And then we'll just cinch that down across the waist, and that'll kind of hold that in place while we're recrowning and buffing. So it was really only up at the top end that we needed to level, and of course when you go across with the leveling file, then you end up with a square profile on the crowns of the frets. So what I'm doing here, I am not touching the center of the fret with this crowning file. I'm just coaxing it back towards the center. And of course these top ones are really squared off because they were the ones that took the biggest hit with the leveling file. Okay, I'm going to come back around the other side. Yeah, they look pretty good. I think we got most of it. Most of the issue was actually on the bass side. So I'm just going to cover up those soft plastic inlays because the sandpaper will put scratch marks in those. It's not so bad when it's real inlay, real pearl, but when it's soft plastic, like, you know, a lot of the Les Pauls as well, we got a couple more Les Pauls coming up, you'll see. You want to cover those up. I'm not masking the whole fingerboard, just the actual inlay. Now I don't have to come back much further than this because all the work we did was at the top end here. Now the tape is a little bit wide here, so just run a thumbnail along there and then we'll just trim that one back. Now we're ready for the scrub block that you guys got in your kits. So this is a scrub block you got, 400 grit paper, and this is cloth back paper, and we just kind of scrub those frets that we just finished recrowning. We're scrubbing them back to dead center. This is our 400 grit. Once again, I've explained in other videos, but this is actually a flexible vinyl that distorts and slurs over top of those crowns and automatically just brings them right back to center, which obviously affects your intonation. We'll step it up to 600 grit. Here's our 600 grit. Now that we've got that top end done, now we can go full length with the 600 grit. That's not going to hurt the inlay or anything else. And now we're ready to buff. Now I have had plenty of people asking about this die grinder. So this is a 110-degree angle die grinder. This was initially a 3-inch diameter wheel. I'm loading that up with compound. I have had a bunch of people ask, well, can't I just use a drill? I'm sure you can use a variable speed drill. The biggest advantage of using the air is I can control the amount of torque. And I have shown this in other videos, but I'll show it again. So when I press on those frets, if I press down hard, it'll stop. I do not have infinite torque. So that's what you got to watch with an electric drill. You got to make sure that you're going nice and easy, and you don't want to either burn the inlay or burn the plastic binding with too much torque. So I can stop it. Now I move on an angle, you can see across the crown of the fret. Come around the other side, the opposite angle. So now we'll just sort of clean off the residue of the compound and remove our mask. And just a little bit of lemon oil. Wipe it on and wipe it off. Okay, here's the moment of truth. 11 to 49 strings at concert pitch. Here we go. Open string. First fret. Okay, so next, an octave, A string 7th fret, and octave. D string 7th fret, and octave. G string 7th fret, and octave. B string 7th fret, and octave. And lastly, high E 7th fret, and octave. 12th fret, fretted, and open string. Okay, D string, G string, or B string, and open, and first string. So these are the final values on this nut. You can see that This one is just a couple of thou ahead at the end of the fingerboard. Same with this one. Of course, the G is always a little bit further ahead. The D is back a little bit. I think the A is right on the money, right at the end of the fingerboard. And then the low E, this 49 thou at concert pitch, is pushed forward a little bit. So that is the compensated nut. Once again, like I've said so many times in other videos, it's a moving target, but we have hit the target bullseye with this one. Let's have a listen. Alright, so this is the final call on this PRS guitar. We're going to play some chords as we always do. Same chord, various positions on the neck. And you can listen for yourself. So. So here's A minor 9. Exact same chord, one octave higher. Garden Variety D. So I'm just going to play through this C minor progression. That's the whole progression. I've just kind of looped that and I'll just blow over top. Okay, so here goes. you.